So Mars is retrograde. What does that mean? I'm recording this on October 30th, and Mars has just turned around. It's going to be in its backward position till January 12th, 2023. So for these 2.5 months, there's a different experience of how we're relating to the energy that is represented by and described by Mars. To understand what that retrograde is going to look like, feel like, and be like, let's think about what Mars represents. Mars represents, first of all, the physical body, our drive, our ambition, creating in the world, actually manifesting something in the physical world. Think like with your hands, that kind of building energy, accomplishing your goals. Again, that drive, desire, making things happen. Mars is also connected to our sex drive, our sexuality, also to our anger. Or if you're doing nervous system healing work with me, your healthy fight response, that ability to respond in a healthy way that says, this is not okay, or here's my boundary. That's a very Mars construct. It's also all about our physical energy, our vitality, our energy, our aliveness. So if you think about all these concepts and think about a retrograde period being an experience where that energy is somehow turned inward or reversed. Retrogrades, of course, are generally speaking a beautiful period for any kind of review, revision, reflection, going under the surface to redo things. So if you think about those concepts that I just listed, Mars retrograde is a really beautiful time for planning, for goal setting, for reorienting, reworking what you're creating and what you're up to in the world. Doesn't mean you're not putting things out into the world. And none of these, by the way, are things to be scared of or saying you can't do this or you can't do that. But it can help us to make sense of the energy we're experiencing and to make sense of this whole experience of being in a physical body, moving through the world, through all the energy that we're meeting and embodying and interacting with. When we understand, this Mars energy is now in a period of some kind of inwardness. So anger, for example, could be an interesting experience during this time. If you think about Mars as like the expression of physical energy, when it's turned inward, there may be more of a tendency to hold things in. This is a time to be aware of what you're holding in and to be noticing and be aware of what's going on with things like impulses and anger. And of course, it's never about, oh, you just need to express it or you just need to not express it. This is about a deeper awareness of feeling what's happening with that energy and understanding that, for example, a normal drive to react in an outward way might be turned inward in some way. I want to invite you to feel into how that might look, how that might show up for you in your experience. Because what's helpful about these principles is getting the essence of them and feeling into how it's embodied in your life, in your day-to-day experience, so that you can respond from a higher place, not from, for example, a lashing out place or a getting stuck place, but from a place of awareness of that Mars energy is having a different experience right now. What does that feel like? What's that like in my physical system? So that's the first thing I want to invite you to explore with this Mars retrograde is how might that Mars energy of physical drive, desire, ambition, goals, creating, sexuality, anger, fight response, physical energy, if that's all turned inward, how might that be being felt and expressed and working itself out in your experience? Because this is where, of course, we can become so much more conscious around all of the inner stuff going on. It may be a very challenging period. And particularly if you're watching this soon after October 30th, know that the turnaround days, especially for the highly sensitive, can feel cranky, can feel like, oh, what's going on? So I want to invite you to notice that and notice your experience over the next couple of days. If you're watching this October 30-ish, and just feel into, with some extra space and compassion for yourself, what's happening with this energy I might be feeling around all those things that I just listed. Another good thing to know is that September 3rd began what's called the shadow phase of this retrograde. So basically, that's where the planet traverses a certain portion of the zodiac, and then when it hits the retrograde, it goes back over that same portion. So whatever has come up in your experience since September 3rd, in those areas of physicality, drive, ambition, desire, sex, anger, energy, whatever things have been getting your attention, wanting to be worked out, wanting to be addressed, are likely what's going to come up in this retrograde period for a deeper dive, asking for some kind of a deeper reconnection to, maybe a more mindful, conscious connection to whatever is going on that came up over these past 2 months. So know that between now and January 12th, 2023, this is the experience we're going to be in. It's a good time to give yourself and others extra grace, especially around anything anger related, impulse related. Giving yourself space around any of that is never a bad idea. But a Mars retrograde is a really important time to give yourself space around all the churning and the reworking and whatever the physical experience you might be having is. So that's going from now till January 12th, 2023. Since Mars is a personal planet, it affects each of us very differently, depending on how it interacts with your natal chart. If you happen to know where 8 degrees of Gemini to 25 degrees of Gemini falls in your natal chart, if you know what house that falls in, that's going to give you some more clues about what these next couple months may be like and feel like for you, and where you'll be invited to bring an extra dose of mindfulness, spaciousness, breath, compassion, love for yourself around anything in this Mars energy experience that may arise, because it may be challenging. And of course, we know that these challenging periods that we meet are all about a deepening into our own consciousness, understanding and knowing ourselves, our systems, our nervous systems, how we interact with the energy around us and the energy of the world. So that's my last invitation to you, is if, I'm going to say when challenges come up over these next couple of months, can you frame it in that picture of all that Mars energy is in a retrograde, in a different, more inward, more under the surface experience? How can I give that more space, breath, compassion to allow whatever needs to rework itself to do so? That's my invitation to you. Have at it, have fun. If you want to do a deep dive into your chart and explore how all this impacts you very personally, reach out to me. Links are in the comments below. Sending you so much love on this Mars retrograde journey that we are all embarking on. Take good care.